2 months after leaving Egypt, the people of Israel set out to Sinai desert and camped at the foot of the mountain. Then Moses went up the mountain before God.
You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation.
Then the Lord told Moses that he would appear before him in a thick cloud so that the people could hear him when he spoke to him. But first, they had to prepare themselves by consecrating themselves and washing their clothes. On the 3rd day, the Lord would appear on the top of Sinai. A boundary had to be marked around the mountain. Anyone who crossed that boundary would die. Israel consecrated themselves, washed their clothes, and on the morning of the 3rd day, thunder rumbled and lightning flashed, and a thick cloud descended upon the mountain. A loud and prolonged blast of the ram's horn was heard, and all the people trembled. They left the camp and stood at the foot of the mountain. Sinai was completely covered in smoke and shook violently. The sound of the ram's horn got louder and louder. Moses spoke, and God answered him with a voice like thunder. He called Moses to go up the mountain, and Moses did so. Sabbath School Live presents the series, The Exodus, Journey to the Promised Land. Lesson 8, The Covenant at Sinai. Have you noticed that in action movies, there are cases so sensitive that they cannot be delegated? These cases of the utmost national security, say the agents, and immediately the chief boss enters the scene. Do you know why? Because when something is so crucial, it is not left in the hands of others. It is handled personally. That is exactly what God did with the 10 Commandments. He did not inspire them through a prophet like the rest of the scriptures. No, He descended in glory on Mount Sinai, spoke with a voice of thunder, and wrote with His own finger on stone tablets. Why? Because it was a matter of maximum heavenly security. A case of the highest divine priority. So this week's question is, why is God's Decalogue so important to Him, and why should it be important to us as well? First, because God's law is a covenant. Have you ever signed an important agreement?
I signed an agreement to take care of my pet.
I signed one to follow the school rules.
Very good. When an agreement's important, it's not enough to just say it. You put it in writing. That's what you do in a marriage, in a business, or in an employment contract. And that's exactly what God did on Mount Sinai. For many, the 10 Commandments are a simple mathematical formula. 10 Commandments equals 10 prohibitions from an arbitrary God. But in light of the Bible, that formula is incorrect. What is the correct formula? 10 Commandments equals a covenant of love between God and His people. And what does that covenant consist of? God makes it clear in several passages of the Bible.
I will take you as my people, and I will be your God.
Can you see it? They are not 10 arbitrary prohibitions. In fact, in the book of Exodus, they are never even called the 10 Commandments. They are called edut, a Hebrew term that translates as testimony, and dibre haberit, a Hebrew term that translates as the words of the covenant. And in the book of Deuteronomy, the stones on which those 10 Commandments were written are called the tablets of the covenant. Covenant, that is the key word. The agreement was momentous but simple. If you obey me and keep my covenant, you will be my special treasure among all the nations of the earth. Have you ever thought that if we keep His covenant, the 10 Commandments, we become God's special treasure? In Hebrew, that expression is segula, which means precious possession, wealth, something that is carefully guarded. That is what we are to God if we keep His covenant, and no one purposefully leaves a diamond, an emerald, or a gold ring lying around on the street. Likewise, God never leaves His faithful people lying in the trials of life. So don't keep the 10 Commandments as a cold contract of agreement. Keep them as the best contract you have ever signed in your life. Second, because God's law is a protecting gift. Can you think of any laws that actually protect us?
Wearing a seatbelt.
Or not running a red light.
Exactly. These laws are not there to annoy us. They are there to protect us. And that is what God did on Mount Sinai. Can you imagine being there, hearing the 10 Commandments from the mouth of God?
You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol, nor any likeness of what is in heaven above or on earth, beneath or in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I am the Lord your God, a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing mercy to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work on that day, neither you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your livestock, nor the stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is your neighbor's.
What we have just heard is one of God's greatest gifts to humanity. Paul in Romans summarized the law in a single word, love, and Jesus also did so in the Great Commandment. Love God, love your neighbor, and love yourself. Yourself? Sure, because just as obeying traffic lights is not only a law but also an act of self-care, the commandments prevent us from crashing into sin. Do you want to live safely in this broken world? Then embrace God's law, because every no in the commandments is a yes to the full life that God dreamed for you. And third, because God's law keeps us free. Do you like mirrors?
I love them.
Why?
Because they show us how we are.
Exactly. Apostle James compares the law to a mirror. It does not remove dirty spots, but it shows them. Can you understand that? The law does not save us, but it shows us how we are. Some mistakenly claim that the Ten Commandments were abolished at the cross. But several decades after the cross, the Apostle James referred to them as a valid and eternal law. For whoever keeps the whole law but fails in one point has become guilty of all of it. For he who said, "You shall not commit adultery," also said, "You shall not murder." Now if you do not commit adultery, but you do kill, you have become a transgressor of the law. So speak and so act as those who are to be judged under the law that gives freedom. Why do you think James calls the Ten Commandments the law that gives freedom? Listen up. God did not give the commandments to see if Israel was worthy of being saved. God had already saved them. They had already crossed the Red Sea. They were already free. The law was not a requirement for their liberation. It was a guide for preserving their freedom. Did you notice? It is as if God were saying to them, "I have set you free, and now I give you these rules so that you will never again be slaves to anyone, not even to sin," because that is what the law is, a guide to living in true freedom. It is as if they released a prisoner and said to him, "Do you want to remain free? Respect the law and stay away from bad friends." There is another Hebrew term used in the Bible to refer to the Ten Commandments, debarim, which means words and can also mean promises. And of course, they are promises because it is a covenant that assures us that we are God's precious treasure. It is a law that protects us from sin, and it is a gift from God that keeps us free. That is why God regarded it as a case of maximum heavenly security, pronounced the commandments with His own voice, and wrote them with His own finger. Never see the Ten Commandments as 10 prohibitions, but as a heavenly defense system that loves you, protects you, and keeps you free. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Has this study blessed you? You can also be part of this mission to teach the Bible in a creative and transformative way. Scan the QR code on the screen and support us so that more people can learn how to study biblical prophecy. Remember, together we can grow more.